The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. At that time, a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in that place where he was. Then, after this, he said to his disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not on him. After saying these things, he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died, and for your sake I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who believes and lives in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, The teacher is here and is calling for you. And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. So the Jews said, See how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be a smell, for he has been dead for 4 days. But Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. The Gospel of the Lord. That's a very powerful and moving gospel. We see the power of God, and we see in Jesus, and we also see Jesus' humanity, how he feels like we feel in bereavement and in all other things. He experienced all those things. If one walks during the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks at night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. Master, if he is asleep, he will be saved. But Jesus was talking about his death, while he thought he meant ordinary sleep. If we walk in the dark, we will stumble and fall. So we must always walk in the light. The light is walking in the truth that Jesus revealed. How can we be sure that we are walking in the light? Well, there's a fundamental and very easy way to know. Whatever action I'm doing, whatever thought I'm having, is it for myself or for the good of others? We become sure if whatever we are doing, and it's not for ourselves but for the sake of others, it is at least a good intention. Intentions come from the heart. Of course, the outcomes matter, but the judgment is always made on the heart, on the intention. This is why when we say acts of evil, we can say that is evil, but the judgment on the act always comes from God, because that's where the moral intentions of the person lies. That's their heart. That's where we make our fundamental decisions. And sometimes people make the wrong decision with the best of intentions. And that's what Jesus separates between the light and the dark. And this is what St. Paul means when he told us in our second reading that we are dead in the flesh and we should live in the spirit. How do we do this? Well, we follow the law. But the law isn't a thing itself. It's a guide for our hearts. Not the law to guide our hearts. You see, our hearts were enlightened by the Spirit, informed, knowing and understanding. This is the truth that leads to the Father, which is why Jesus was so adamant against the old law. The old law ignored the heart. It ignored the intentions. It was only about the acting and the doing. If you did these things and you had a rotten black heart, it didn't matter, as long as you did one of those little commandments. And this is why Jesus was always getting at the scribes and especially the Pharisees, because they were doing without having hearts that matched. They were just going through the motions. And we can fall into that, can't we? We can just not try to make any efforts in our spiritual life or even in our moral life. We just come to church out of a pattern. We've always got to remember, I'm sure most of you don't do that, but we've all got to be careful that we don't fall into these patterns and remember that we live in the Spirit. And the Spirit is first and foremost about our hearts. The law is important, but it's there to guide our hearts. It's not a thing in itself. It's a servant of the heart to keep us on the truth, to know what really matters, what's really good and what's really evil. So I was horrified last night to realise that the bill went through Parliament, the end-of-life bill for abortion. And I was just so shocked it's going. So now what it means is, as I mentioned to you last year about the abortion up to life, and life itself, so you have infanticide. That's where we are now. It's what's going to be allowed. And it started in Norway in the 90s. The children that had been born, who were crying, they'd been born and they're literally crying babies. were euthanized, so they used euphemistically, euthanized, were murdered, because they judged that the quality of life wouldn't be worth it. And you know, I remember reading, it was in your brother gets this, and you used to read, it was in the Observer. I mean, their brother had bought it, I say it was 94, and I'll never forget it. I cut it out and I lost the cutting. And they had changed the law in Holland to make sure. And they said they were there when the first child in the hospital was euthanized, and they said that after it had been born, a discussion between the doctors, the parents, and the pastor. And it always stuck with me, that, with the pastor. So there was to judge the child's quality of life, a crying baby. You know, and the problem with this is all our great authors, all those people who are insightful from Chesterton to Orwell, have warned us. We can sleepwalk. We can sleepwalk without the light, sleepwalk into darkness, and we just accept it without a big fuss. I mean, can you remember, have you heard the church going on about that important bill that went unopposed through the week on Wednesday? Just at a place just a few, Archbishop Moth, who is the new de facto head of the church in England. His house is only a few hundred metres from where this happened. Did you hear the proclamation, the condemnation, the warnings, the petitions from them? I didn't. Nothing. Well, that's the light we've got to walk with. The light we've got to at least make an effort. We've got to at least know about these things, pray about these things, and at least trying to make an effort to change them. We can't just, there's no point if we're just going to keep our heads down and go along with it. You know, our forefathers were tortured to death in public, stripped naked and put on a pole, right? And we can't, what we do? Nothing. And we're letting most of those people out there are clueless. And they've got a hunger for God deep down. It's imprinted on every human heart. And it's our job to get them into the light and to live, not in the darkness, but to live in the light. And they're only going to know that as if someone shows them and someone tells them. So all those little things that you say and do matter, even if it's in your own household with your own family, because I'm sure you all come into contact with loved ones who don't believe, and you've got to show and your patience and your kindness, and above all, your commitment to Christ. By coming to Mass, by involving yourself constantly in the church, you've got to show them what's important in your life, and not just to sigh and go along with it. You know, this is real life, little babies, and we're going to accept that. And the last thing, what they don't realise is, when these things pass, and they want to keep them quiet, look, no fuss, we'll just kill all these babies, 250,000 last year, and that'll certainly go up. We'll just keep quiet about it and all go along. And if I hadn't mentioned it, I don't know if it would have been an all go. But that's not the end of it. It's not. Because when we, as a nation, go down these moral roads, it comes back to us. It reflects on us as a people, on how we value each other. And how that's a statement on what we think about life and the value of life. And we're being funneled down this road. And you see on the adverts, don't you, about these quick cremations. Don't make a fuss. Pay $1,000 now and then you can forget about it. Doesn't matter, it's just death. You get rid of your body because there's no... These are purely atheistic views of life. We've got to be horrified at these things. We've got to make an effort. At the very least, we've got to storm heaven with our prayers. But we can't let these things go by unchallenged, because that's pure, unadulterated defeatism. And we've got to walk in the light. Not in the darkness of night, but in the light of day. And those people who haven't heard, you've got the duty. That's what you do. That's what lay people do. The clerics get the lay people ready to go and preach in the world. I don't preach in the world. You preach in the world by what you say and what you do, what you don't say and what you don't do. So it's up to you, but it's a great responsibility. And there are consequences in this life and the next life for not acting. And that falls on all of us.